Okay, let's unpack this. We often hear the term employee voice, right?
Yeah.
But it feels like it's way more than just, a suggestion box by the water cooler.
Definitely.
Imagine a company where every single employee feels genuinely heard,
Mm.
where their ideas actually shape decisions, and maybe their concerns get addressed before they become big problems.
Yeah.
What kind of impact would that really have? Today, we're diving deep into employee voice, why it's so much more than just a buzzword, why it matters strategically, and how companies are finding some really new, impactful ways to capture it.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that employee voice isn't just about keeping people happy, morale. It's actually a critical element for organizational effectiveness. For too long, organizations have kind of struggled with how to truly listen.
Right.
So this deep dive will look at how employers are thinking about and using voice, some surprising reasons why employees often don't speak up, and crucially, how modern analytics are completely changing HR's ability to understand what their workforce really thinks and feels.
So our mission for you today is pretty clear. Give you a practical handle on employee voice, show you its real-world value whether you're leading a team or an HR, and then, reveal how analytics, things like sentiment analysis, offer powerful new ways for HR to turn all that opinion into, actionable insights.
And we're drawing on studies that looked at companies' actual practices, plus thousands of online employee reviews, so real-world stuff.
Exactly. So let's start there. What exactly is employee voice? It sounds simple, but it seems more nuanced.
It is. If we think about it practically, employee voice is often informal, discretionary communication. It's when an employee shares ideas, suggestions, maybe concerns, or points out problems with people who can actually do something about it. The key is the intent. It's about wanting to bring improvement or change. It's that kind of proactive, often unsolicited input.
Okay, proactive. That
Yeah.
makes sense. But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit worrying. Despite how important this sounds, often employees just don't speak up. They see things, but say nothing.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. It's called employee silence.
Right. I saw one study that found 85% of young professionals felt unable to raise a concern at least once. And only about half felt comfortable talking to their manager about problems. That's that's a lot of silence.
It really is. And another survey found 42% of employees admitted holding back information because they felt they had nothing to gain, or worse, maybe something to lose by speaking out.
Wow. So why? Why the silence? It seems counterproductive for everyone.
Well, it boils down to perceived risk, usually. Employees might worry about, negative consequences, being seen as a complainer, maybe losing respect, getting dinged on a performance review.
Or even getting fired.
Or even getting fired. In some environments, yes. They might also just feel like their input won't be taken seriously anyway, or that it won't actually lead to any change. Or maybe they worry it'll just upset colleagues or their boss.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are these deeply ingrained beliefs, maybe not even conscious, that challenging authority is just risky, even if managers say they have an open door.
That's a powerful barrier. And the cost of this silence, it can be huge, can't it? Not just missed ideas, but potentially much worse.
Absolutely. I mean, serious organizational failures have been linked back to employee silence. Think about the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster or the Enron implosion. Crucial information wasn't voiced or wasn't heard.
Wow.
Organizations miss out on learning, on innovation, on catching errors early, even preventing crises. And for the employees themselves, silence can lead to feeling dissatisfied, stressed out, cynical. It hits performance and makes people more likely to leave.
But the flip side is true too, right? When
Yeah.
people do speak up.
Exactly. When employees use their voice, it leads to better ways of working, sparks new ideas, helps fix mistakes faster. And for the individual, it gives them a sense of control, makes them feel valued. It's a win-win.
So the takeaway here for you listening, whether you're a manager or an employee, is pretty stark. Fostering an environment where speaking up isn't just allowed, but genuinely encouraged and valued. It's critical. The alternative is just too damaging.
It really is. The hidden cost of silence is enormous.
Okay, so voice is critical, silence is risky. Given that, how have companies traditionally tried to capture this voice? And how is that evolving now?
Well, historically, you had more collective mechanisms, right? Things like trade unions, collective bargaining, maybe joint consultation committees. Those were pretty significant.
Yeah, the formal structures.
Exactly. And they still exist, of course, especially in bigger unionized places. But there's been a really big shift. We've seen this huge growth in more direct employee involvement, often driven by management wanting, a closer connection.
Okay, so what do these more direct methods look like in practice? Can you give us some examples?
Sure, there's a whole range of things organizations are trying. You've got your classic suggestion schemes, right? Drop an idea in a box or online form.
Sometimes they work, sometimes less so.
Precisely. Then there are attitude surveys, asking staff regularly about their views. One study found about half of organizations use these quite centrally, but sometimes employees felt, a bit disconnected if the results were just used for benchmarking and didn't seem to lead to change they could see.
Right, the survey fatigue thing.
Yeah. Then you have things like project teams, pulling people from different areas, giving them autonomy to solve a specific problem.
That sounds more empowering.
It can be. And simpler things too, like team briefings or daily huddles. There was this example of a school head who briefed staff every day for just 10 minutes on key issues. Quick, focused chance for immediate feedback.
I like that. Very immediate.
And then there are more informal gatherings. I read about this transport company where the MD held Sunday morning meetings at a pub with the drivers. Crucially, he told middle managers not to come.
Oh, interesting. So unfiltered feedback?
Exactly. Apparently, they were lively sessions, bacon sandwiches, and real talk. That kind of direct, informal access can be incredibly valuable.
Definitely gets past the usual filters.
Then you've got things like strategy days, getting staff involved in setting objectives, maybe discussing market changes or potential clients in small groups, feeding ideas back for action plans.
So really involving them in the bigger picture.
Yes. And finally, of course, electronic media. It started mostly for top-down communication, but it's increasingly becoming two-way. Staff posting questions directly to senior managers, online forums, that sort of thing.
It feels like the how matters more than the what, though. Like, just having a suggestion scheme isn't enough if no one reads the suggestions, right?
Absolutely spot on. The depth to which these practices are embedded, how dynamic they are, how integrated into daily work, and critically, whether managers actually listen and act on the feedback, that's far more important than just ticking a box to say you have a voice mechanism.
Okay. But collecting all this feedback, especially, all the written comments from surveys or online platforms, that must create a huge amount of data for HR to sift through.
It does. It's a massive challenge.
So how can organizations possibly handle that volume and actually pull out meaningful insights? Feels like you could drown in comments.
Well, that's exactly where the world of advanced analytics, particularly things like sentiment analysis, is really stepping in and becoming kind of a game changer for HR.
Okay, analytics. Let's get into that. How does something like sentiment analysis help HR deal with this flood of feedback?
So think about all those online employee reviews people leave anonymously on sites like Glassdoor. Voluntarily, candidly.
Yes, sometimes very candidly.
Exactly. That anonymity encourages honesty. These platforms are just gold mines of user-generated content about what employees really think, their experiences, what matters to them. Things that might not surface in a formal, maybe slightly guarded company survey.
Okay, so it's like tapping into a more honest conversation that's already happening.
Yeah.
How does HR turn that raw data, that big data, into something they can actually use?
This is where sophisticated text analysis tools come in. Things like sentiment analysis and topic modeling can dig through thousands of reviews and extract really profound insights, way beyond just positive or negative. For instance, one analysis of over 35,000 reviews didn't just find the usual suspects. It identified 30 really specific job satisfaction factors. Some were things we expect, but others were quite new, like the importance of specific aspects of, say, work intensity and efficiency or self-development opportunities, or even details about software development processes in tech firms.
Wow, that granular, not just culture, but specific elements within the culture or workflow.
Precisely. It gets down to the nitty-gritty. It allows HR to move beyond vague notions and pinpoint very specific drivers of satisfaction or dissatisfaction.
Okay, that sounds incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But is there a danger of getting overwhelmed by too much detail?
Yeah.
How do these analytics actually make these factors actionable for, a busy HR team?
That's a great question. The power comes from analyzing this data at different levels. It gives HR a multidimensional view.
Okay, like what levels?
Well, you can look at the industry level, understand the general sentiment and importance of factors across your whole sector. Maybe in IT, org culture is generally positive, but Human resources, meaning internal HR processes like recruitment or promotion, is a pain point industry-wide. That gives
Yeah.
you context.
Benchmarking.
Exactly. Then you drill down to the company level. Compare your firm directly with competitors. You might see salary sentiment is higher at company A, but human resource issues are a much bigger, more negative driver at your company, company B. Bang, there's a focus area.
Okay, targeted insights.
Then there's the group level. You can differentiate between, say, current and former employees. It's interesting, often current employees rate most things more positively, but maybe human resources satisfaction is higher among former employees. What does that tell you about why people leave?
Yeah, that's revealing.
You can also track things at the chronological level, see how sentiment and importance change over time. Did that new wellness program actually move the needle on work-life balance sentiment? You can measure it.
Yeah. So you can see if initiatives are actually working.
Yes. And maybe most importantly, analytics can determine the relative importance. Which factors have the biggest impact on overall satisfaction? Maybe it's not salary, maybe it's senior management interactions. Knowing that helps HR focus resources. Improving supervisor skills might boost satisfaction more than a small pay bump, for instance. Or maybe enhancing specific benefits matters more than others.
Okay, so it helps prioritize efforts.
And finally, you can look at variation across satisfaction levels. What matters most to your happiest 5-star employees versus your unhappiest 1-star employees. Maybe self-development is key for the stars, but working hours or office politics are the killers for low-rated reviews.
So you can tailor interventions, address the specific pain points of different groups.
Exactly. It allows for much more targeted, effective HR strategies instead of just guessing or using a one-size-fits-all approach.
This sounds incredibly useful for HR, for making internal changes. But what about sort of the bigger picture? Does all this employee sentiment, especially when you aggregate it from millions of reviews, have any wider impact, like economically?
It's a fascinating question, and the answer seems to be yes. When you aggregate millions of these anonymous, voluntary opinions from platforms like Glassdoor, it turns out this collective sentiment can actually have predictive power for stock market returns.
Wait, really? Stock market returns? How does that work? And hang on, you said earlier higher sentiment predicts lower future returns. That feels totally backward.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive, right? You'd think happy employees equals rising stock price.
Yeah.
But the research suggests that extremely high aggregate positive sentiment might actually signal over-optimism in the market about a company or sector. This over-optimism can lead to the stock price becoming overvalued.
Okay. Like irrational exuberance driven by perceived employee happiness.
Kind of. And then eventually, there's often a market correction as expectations meet reality, leading to those lower subsequent returns. It fits with theories about investor beliefs getting temporarily biased.
Interesting. So the anonymous aggregated voice is like a less biased leading indicator than, say, official company statements.
That's the idea. Because it's voluntary, anonymous, and comes from such a broad base, it might be less prone to the spin or management bias you sometimes get in official communications or even some traditional surveys. It offers this real-time, wide-angle lens.
So wow. What this really means then is employee voice isn't just an internal HR metric or a nice to have for culture. It's potentially a powerful signal with real financial predictability.
Exactly. It moves beyond the individual company's walls and becomes almost a macroeconomic indicator, reflecting underlying sentiment and potentially future economic adjustments. It really underscores how valuable and potent this collective voice can be.
What an incredible journey we've taken here. We've really unpacked how vital employee voice is, explored those surprising deep-seated reasons why people often stay silent, looked at how companies are trying to listen from those pub meetings, which I love, to sophisticated project teams, and now how these advanced analytics are basically giving HR superpowers to turn raw opinion into concrete strategy.
And even predicting market moves, which is wild.
Right. Just amazing.
And I think connecting it all back, the ability to accurately capture, genuinely understand, and then decisively act on employee voice, it's just not optional anymore, is it? It's a fundamental strategic imperative.
Totally.
The insights you can get, especially from these candid sources like online reviews when you apply smart analysis, that offers a serious competitive edge.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? Maybe the question isn't just if your organization is listening, it's how deeply is it listening?
Hmm.
And are there new tools, new ways of thinking that could unlock the insights hidden within your people?
Yeah.
Could those unexpressed thoughts, those silent observations from your colleagues be holding things back? Or maybe could they be the key that unlocks the next big leap forward for your whole organization? Something to think about.